portrait of a lonely human being who doesn't know anything about himself, who has very little identity. His identity comes from what people say about him, what people write about him, and the people who take his picture, but he doesn't have any familiarity with what within him.
And Romeo and Juliet. So I didn't feel like I was violating anything because I don't really necessarily love remakes.
Steven Spielberg, I find quite confused in his recollection of me.
Here's the harsh truth. Earning Spielberg's trust can make your career, but breaking it can end it instantly. This video uncovers the 6 actors he decided he could never work with again, and the specific, unforgettable moments that caused their exile. From public insults to constant clashes on set, the downfall always came fast and final.
Both the 61 film and the Broadway musical both owe a huge debt of gratitude to William Shakespeare.
Because I wasn't fitting in very well to the world that I was living in at the time.
These aren't petty disagreements. They're turning points that reshaped Hollywood careers. If you think a little conflict can be brushed aside in filmmaking, these stories will prove just how costly the slip can be. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Number 1. Megan Fox. Megan Fox seemed unstoppable when she burst onto the screen in Transformers. She was marketed as the new face of blockbuster cinema, instantly recognizable around the world, and at the center of one of Hollywood's most valuable franchises. For a brief moment, she looked like the kind of star who could carry an entire era of action movies on her shoulders. But her meteoric rise came to a halt after one interview. While speaking to the press, she made a striking comparison, likening director Michael Bay to a dictator. The remark didn't just cause a stir with Bay, it struck a nerve with Steven Spielberg, who was serving as the film's executive producer. Reports say Spielberg personally urged Bay to cut ties immediately, a message loud and clear from one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood. The fallout was brutal. Her character was not only written out of the 3rd installment, but the story carried on as if she had never existed. That erasure became the statement. Spielberg set an unmistakable precedent. Public disrespect toward a director ended careers, no exceptions. Megan's trajectory never recovered. Number 2. Shia LaBeouf. For a short time, Shia LaBeouf looked like Steven Spielberg's hand-picked successor. In Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, he wasn't just any supporting actor. He was introduced as the next generation, the character set up to carry a legendary franchise forward. Industry press framed him as the new face of action-adventure, and Spielberg's backing gave him credibility few actors his age could dream of. Then, once the movie debuted, LaBeouf turned on the very man who launched him there. He spoke openly about his disappointment with the film, but he didn't stop there. He criticized Spielberg's directing itself, calling his approach too safe. That kind of public shot at Spielberg was almost unheard of, especially while benefiting from his mentorship. For an audience, it was unexpected. For Spielberg, it was unacceptable. Almost immediately, Hollywood noticed a change. LaBeouf was nowhere near the creative conversations for future Indiana Jones projects. His character disappeared without ceremony, and Spielberg never revisited the partnership. The unspoken rule was plain: criticize him once, and the door closes forever. Number 3. Christian Bale. When Steven Spielberg cast Christian Bale in Empire of the Sun, he was only 13 years old. Bale was unknown, but his audition showed an intensity far beyond his age. Spielberg took a gamble and handed him the lead role, putting the weight of a major war drama on the shoulders of a teenager. Audiences and critics were stunned by his performance, but behind the camera, the dynamic wasn't as simple. Bale approached the set with a seriousness few children ever brought. He didn't just learn his own lines, he memorized everyone else's as well. If another actor slipped up, Bale sometimes corrected them. At other points, he challenged Spielberg's blocking or asked for scenes to be redone. That level of confidence in a child actor was impressive, but it also disrupted Spielberg's rhythm. For a director who valued control above all else, losing ground to a young actor created unease. Though the film earned recognition as one of Spielberg's bold early projects, their partnership quietly ended there. Bale never appeared in another of his productions, proof that talent wasn't enough once boundaries were crossed. Number 4, Sean Connery. When Sean Connery stepped into Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, it was a landmark moment. One of the most iconic leading men in film history now stood shoulder to shoulder with Harrison Ford, reimagined as Indy's father. On screen, it was a masterstroke. Their chemistry gave the movie heart, humor, and a sense of legacy that elevated the entire adventure. For audiences, it looked effortless. Behind the curtain, it was not. Connery wasn't content to simply follow the script. He regularly pushed for rewrites, suggesting changes to lines and even entire scenes. He had strong opinions about his wardrobe, insisting on adjustments that clashed with the original design. At times, his presence carried as much weight as the director's notes, creating friction between his vision and Spielberg's. The father-son dynamic Spielberg wanted to tell wasn't always the one Connery argued for. Because of his unmatched stardom, Connery had the leverage to demand it. But Spielberg valued his own authority above collaboration with even the biggest names. The movie became a triumph, yet their working relationship ended there. One film, and never again. Number 5, Julia Roberts. When Julia Roberts signed on to play Tinker Bell in Spielberg's Hook, she was at the height of her fame. Fresh off breakout hits and considered America's sweetheart, her casting was seen as a major win for the production. It wasn't just a supporting role, it was a reimagined central part of the story, and expectations for her performance were huge. But once filming began, the energy on set shifted. Roberts was reportedly late to call times, sometimes spending long stretches inside her trailer while the crew waited. Tensions grew further when disagreements with other cast members surfaced, creating an atmosphere that slowed the pace of production. The nickname Tinker Hell began circulating among the crew, a pointed way of capturing the frustration brewing behind the scenes. For Spielberg, this was a serious problem. His process relied on efficiency, and he was known for keeping shoots on track, often moving faster than most directors in Hollywood. Hook dragged under the weight of off-screen strain, and Spielberg later admitted he wouldn't cast Roberts again. That distance became permanent, showing that even his biggest stars weren't immune to consequences. Number 6, Richard Dreyfuss. Richard Dreyfuss and Steven Spielberg seemed inseparable in the beginning. Their partnership gave the world Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, two films that not only launched Spielberg as a force in Hollywood, but also cemented Dreyfuss as a leading man. On screen, they told stories that defined an era of blockbuster filmmaking. To audiences, they looked like a perfect creative pair, with Dreyfuss delivering some of his most memorable performances under Spielberg's direction. Behind the scenes, though, things were far more complicated. Dreyfuss had a habit of questioning Spielberg's decisions, offering suggestions for rewrites, and pressing for changes during production. At first, that dynamic worked. Their early collaboration thrived on a give and take that produced undeniable classics. But as Spielberg's stature grew, his patience for pushback began to shrink. The creative freedom once tolerated gradually felt like interference. By the time they reunited for Always, in 1989, the partnership was wearing thin. The film came and went quietly, and no open feud followed. Yet the silence afterward said everything. Spielberg never cast Dreyfus again, ending a once-celebrated relationship without ceremony. Looking back, the pattern is impossible to miss. Spielberg rewarded actors who brought discipline and loyalty to his sets, but he had no patience for rebellion or public disrespect. His power meant one decision could change the entire direction of someone's career. These 6 names stand as proof of how he protected his authority, no matter how famous, talented, or beloved the actor might have been. In his world, the cost of a single mistake could be permanent exile. Which of these breakups surprised you most? Share your thoughts below. I want to know which story shocked you the hardest.